Welcome to Randomjeanc's very first Musical Masters episode, a series where we talk about video game composers, a little about their games, history, and of course, their music. Danny Baranowski made a huge impact in the indie gaming community, composing the music behind dozens of Flash games on websites like Newgrounds, and for even YouTubers like Ashley Birch from Hey Ash, What You Playin', to even some of the earliest indie games that forever changed the indie scene like Super Meat Boy. Before he was so well known within the indie game community and just the video game community in general, let's roll back to the year 2001 when Danny first joined one of the internet's largest video game remix communities, OC Remix. Danny preferred to remix the music of others because it was easier than creating his own music, and just kept doing it over and over for years. He eventually became a judge in the OC Remix community where he learned how to do the impossible, which is objectively appraise something that is subjective, which also helped him understand what qualities and techniques makes a song fantastic. His position and years of work in the OC Remix community led him to meet Adam Saltzman Atomic, a pretty big player among the indies, and Adam would regularly send Baranowski games he worked on, and Baranowski would in return try to send him music specifically for those games, but it apparently never really panned out. Eventually, Adam sent Danny Gravity Hook. Danny mentioned to Adam, "It's cool, it just needs music," but Saltzman intended the game to be a silent one. Refusing to listen, Danny tells him, "You, I'm writing music anyway." 40 minutes later, Baranowski sends Adam track A, and upon listening, blows his mind and really impressed him. So much so that Adam used his influence to spread Baranowski's work, which eventually led to Baranowski meeting Edmund McMillan, who would later create Super Meat Boy in 2010, which helped set a path to launch Danny's dream to become a full-time composer. A simple Flash game, Edmund and his friend Tommy Refons, and of course, composed by Danny. That Flash game became so popular, it caught the attention of Nintendo and Microsoft, who wanted a game for the 360's Xbox Live service and Nintendo Wii's WiiWare service. Much of the development for Super Meat Boy was chronicled and well documented in the 2012 documentary indie game, The Movie. I highly recommend you check that movie out if you want to learn some of the horrors and the greatest moments of game development. Now that we have somewhat of an idea how Danny began his career, let's talk about the music from the games and what makes him a musical master. I haven't played all of the games Danny has composed, but there are a large number of games, small and grander. But I do own all of his most influential and largest projects, ironically in my Steam account: Super Meat Boy, the original Binding of Isaac, and Crypt of the Necrodancer. Super Meat Boy was a massive indie hit with universal praise and was released October 20th, 2010. The soundtrack contains a vast amount of songs which count for over 30 plus tracks, and the special edition which more than doubled the songs, using songs that never made it to the game and adding plenty of additional remixes by Baranowski himself, which brought the total to more than 70 plus tracks. Danny knows how to create a massive range of songs from varying styles and intensities for his games. He's just so damn good with his tones and beats, and they're just so addicting. 8-bit, retro, SNES, whatever. This man can do it all. No matter what it is always amazing. Calm songs like Forest Funk are one of the very first ones I ever heard from Super Meat Boy that you can hear as the Chapter 1 Forest theme. And he just knows how to overlay so many instruments together but sound so natural when it needs to, despite using nothing but computer software. This man knows how to make electronic guitar shredding sound so in like nobody's business. I don't know why I love shredding electric guitars, but I just do. And that goes for any genre I listen to. Many of the tracks for Super Meat Boy are nods to chiptunes to the early Nintendo games and SNES games. Beta Blues is one of the most beloved songs, but there's so much to choose from. He even knows how to create choirs and orchestral scores. Truly amazing to see the range of genres he covers with just one game. If you have been gaming for a while or have paid attention to the indie gaming scene that exploded around this time in 2008 to 2010, then you have definitely heard about Super Meat Boy. And if you haven't, then do yourself a favor However, play the game, let your ear holes be satisfied by the radical stylings of Danny B. Slides. If that game is not your taste, there's plenty of more songs he's composed for. And next up is The Binding of Isaac, which was the next huge indie hit that Edmund McMillen designed and, of course, Danny composed for. This version is the original version released in September 28th, 2011. Don't get it confused with the more recent Binding of Isaac Rebirth that came out 3 years later on November 4th, 2014. That version of Binding of Isaac was developed by Edmund McMillen, but the music was not composed by Danny because he at the time no longer had a working relationship with McMillen. No one really knows why specifically. Danny himself has been quite vague, which is fine, and I just hope they aren't in bad terms, but Danny has mentioned they won't be working together anymore in the future. Anywho, back to the music, folks. The Binding of Isaac soundtrack is not as intense as Super Meat Boy. It is more melodic than before and serene at times. It's so good to listen to in the background. It perfectly matches the game's pacing and gameplay, just as Meat Boy's soundtrack does to that game. Plenty of chiptune beats and of course orchestral ones too, even more so than before. Not to mention a lot of creepy songs littered throughout the Binding of Isaac soundtrack. The soundtrack with DLC contains 40 songs. I highly recommend you check the game out if you never did, or at least get the soundtrack. It's only $1. Yeah, just $1. Just that's like a dollar meal from any fast food place or something. Come on, 99 cents. Get this, trust me. I will link to Danny Baranowski's Bandcamp page in the description below. Last but not least, my favorite video game soundtrack from Baranowski's work. That is not to say the others aren't phenomenal, which they are, and picking a favorite, it's like picking a favorite between your kids. It's not possible, yet somehow I did it. Does that make me a maybe? Regardless, I just dig Crypt of the Necrodancer's music so damn much. Electronic music is my favorite, whether it be rave, techno, house, whatever. From the very tutorial itself, the music is just so catchy, and it needs to be. It's a game all focused about rhythm, music, and action-based roguelike gameplay. In a very recent interview with Bandcamp Daily, Danny was asked about how it was to compose for Crypt of the Necrodancer because that game is extremely focused on music. And he says, "It's a rare pleasure in game music for the soundtrack to be the centerpiece of the game. Definitely more exciting than terrifying. I had been writing for long enough to feel like I knew what I was doing, and I like being the center of attention. So I really just went at it full speed ahead. And Ryan Clark, developer of Necrodancer, just reeled me back when he needed to. We've got a really good working relationship at this point where he knows when to calm me down and when to get out of my way. Based off that experience, I'm doing actual game design with Ryan for our next game. So I guess I did alright." Ooh, new game coming out. Oh man, I can't wait. Oh, okay, sorry. Let's go back to just back to the thing. "I could listen to any of these tracks any time of the day. Danny brings his A game to this." And where he's learned from his previous works and then some. Anytime I listen to any of these tracks, I feel like I'm at a rave or something. That's so badass. Out of all the games Danny's composed for, Crypt of the Necrodancer has the music directly tied to the game, which truly shows the superiority of Baranowski's tracks and puts the soundtrack from something that is something you listen to during gameplay in most games to something you have to constantly focus on and move on and strike at perfect matching times. Incredible. Danny even co-created some music that is just insane. YouTuber Family Jules X7 uses his shredding skills on some tracks and highly skilled performances to kick up to another notch for certain songs. Honestly talk non-stop about the amazing songs Danny Baranowski has performed and co-created with even Grant Kirkhope, one of his greatest musical idols, who's going to be at his wedding apparently. Oh hell yeah, congrats Danny. I just want to show somewhat of an insight into a man who's truly talented, has affected the indie game industry for the better, and not just the indie game industry, but just the gaming industry in general, especially when it comes to video game music composition. Anytime you hear or see Danny Baranowski's name, know that you are definitely going to be blown away by this man's music. And now you know why Danny Baranowski is a musical master. What did you think of Musical Master's first video? It's a little experimental, but I promise to improve over time. Did you learn a thing or two about the master himself? What is your favorite soundtrack from his games? Comment below and I will reply. If you like what you saw, why don't you hit that like button? And if you truly love what you saw, smash that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. This is Randomjeanc signing off.